Well, hello there and welcome to The Real Hernando, presented to you by Wesley Meadows Retirement Community and produced by SRP Studios Podcasting. This podcast spotlights Hernando, Mississippi's businesses, organizations, and community leaders. The Real Hernando is also sponsored in part by the DeSoto Arts Council, Brandon Vanderburg with Shelter Insurance, DeSoto Local, 95 Through the Rebel, Angela Kidd Insurance, City Hall Cheesecake, Poke Chaws, Egg Rolls, Motivate with Coach Camp, Denise's Happy Hounds, Tadpool Swim School, and Big Note Music Lessons. Please follow us at therealhernando.com for all channels and social media platforms. Now, a word from Wesley Meadows. Each day at Wesley Meadows is a new opportunity to serve older adults and reimagine retirement living. It is the heart of their mission that inspires their team to provide the kind of fun atmosphere and care residents would want for themselves. Experience the warm spirit and faith-based difference of Wesley Meadows. Call 662-429-2070 and schedule your visit today. Hello and welcome back. I'm your host, Derek, and today we are spotlighting acceptance counseling. The weight of life's struggles can make you feel stuck and overwhelmed, but you don't have to face them alone. At Acceptance Counseling Services in Hernando and Oxford, Mississippi, they understand how these issues can impact your well-being. With over 20 years of experience, they are committed to offering you the support you need to navigate your mental health challenges. Acceptance Counseling believes everyone can heal and grow, and they're here to empower you to do just that. Their services are designed to help you take control of your mental health and start making lasting changes today. Today joining me is founder and CEO Anna Windham and COO and clinical therapist Collin Hill. What's up, y'all? Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Yes. So,
Here.
and we met at your ribbon cutting. So you guys are fresh here in Hernando.
Yep.
As we record this is going to be airing, I would say April-ish somewhere, but welcome to the community. Welcome to Hernando.
Thank
Good
you.
to have you. You're located in that beautiful white building on Commerce with the big pillars, across from City Hall Cheesecake area. And the weather hadn't quite hit yet for your ribbon cutting, so that was nice. It wasn't freezing outside.
Yeah.
So after getting to know you guys and meeting you there, I was like, let's get you on the show, and bring you into the community, because this podcast is here to, tell the audience about what your business is, but also a little bit about yourselves. I feel like we've talked too much before recording, and I know I wanted to save it for the show here, but, there's a bridge because, you've branched from Oxford, and then now you have a second location here in Hernando. So right out of the gate, this is also in the description area. Their website is acsheals.com. They're at 140 East Commerce Street, and you can reach them at 662-533-0220. Again, all of that will be in the description. Well, very cool. Who drew straws? Who wants to go first? I say we make the CEO go first, right, Collin?
Absolutely.
Anna, thanks for being here.
Yes, thanks again, Derek.
Yes, and tell us a little bit about acceptance counseling.
Great. Well, I started acceptance counseling in 2010. I had always wanted to be in private practice and have my own private practice, but for about 8 years before that, I got married, had 2 kids, so I did a lot of contract work while they were little. And then 2010 was about the time they were both in school, and I just felt like it was the right time to start the private practice that I'd always wanted to do. So
That's taking a big leap, isn't it?
It is. It is taking a big leap because if you don't work, you don't get paid and you don't get any benefits. I had worked for the Department of Mental Health for the state of Mississippi for over 4 years. And so, I had PERS retirement. I had good, solid insurance, which was great while I was having babies. And so, to leave all of that kind of security and take a leap to being on your own exclusively, it is a big leap.
But there's benefits to it.
Oh,
Yes.
100%.
Yeah.
100% benefits to it. You just have to budget time and money well, budget resources well, so that when you're not working, it's like this week, a snowy day, or the school's out, especially when my kids were younger and coming up, and I was having to be more involved with them. It's great to be able to be flexible like that as a mom and make your own hours, but at the same time, just make sure you're kind of hitting your bottom line of what you need to every month to pay bills.
It's easy to be too
things
flexible.
like that.
I've fallen into that trap myself.
It is. Yeah, it is easy to be too flexible. So Dr. Penny Halls, who is a retired psychologist from Oxford, she'd been there for many years, and I talked to her when I first was starting out, and she gave me the best piece of advice. She said, don't ever work hours you don't always want to keep working. Like, as in, if you don't want to see people at 5 p.m. or on a Saturday, like, don't ever do that.
You have the control.
Because you'll always be expected to do that, you know? So just make sure that, you have the control and you're, providing enough services to help people, but also at the same time, just balancing your life with that. Because like most self-employed people and entrepreneurs, you can really just let your business take over your whole life.
100%.
So it's been a pretty fine balance there. At times, obviously harder than others to balance, but.
So you said 2010?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So you're 15 years in.
Yeah.
And what made you want to make the leap up to Hernando and grow?
Right. Well, in May of 24, my younger son graduated from high school and was going to be going to college. And I had been engaged to somebody for a couple of years who lived in Oxford but was working in Memphis and making that commute. And so after my son graduated, I sold the house in Oxford and we moved up here so we could split the commute. And it was at that time that I realized I wanted to open an office here in Hernando also and start investing in the community here since this was going to be my new home.
Yeah. It's a wonderful community too.
It is.
You're going to enjoy it here for sure.
We've been here about 6 months now and just really enjoy it. Everybody's just been so welcoming and so helpful to try to help us get really settled here. And it's fantastic.
No better way to start than get involved with the chamber like you have already.
But that was literally like I found an accountant and then a banker through that. And then through the banker found our office and then joined the chamber. Literally all in the same day, Derek.
Yeah. I believe it.
It really, because it just happened that way, It just seemed like.
It's a networking here.
It's so much networking here. So much networking here. And there's a lot of tie back to Oxford. Just so many people that work in Hernando or live in Hernando also have work or family ties back to Oxford also. So that's how I really got started, was through an Oxford tie and then led me to one who just kept leading me to the next person.
There's a lot of Ole Miss alum here. Big Ole Miss area. Maybe some Mississippi State too. But for sure. Collin, let's get you in here. A little more about yourself and your role in this business, and then let's dig into the details of what you all offer. So,
sure.
Collin, welcome to the show, man. And
you.
You currently live in Oxford still, right?
I do, yes. Okay. So I'm primarily in Oxford. I come up to Hernando every other Tuesday right now. I joined Anna in 2020.
Well, it was probably 2019 because it was right before COVID.
It was before COVID. Okay, so 2019 as a lens technician, which is a type of neurofeedback that we offer. And I worked under her doing that throughout my time in grad school.
Okay.
Graduated grad school in social work. Started under her then as a licensed master social worker. Now I'm a licensed clinical certified social worker, however the state wants us to say it. And I've been trucking alongside her since then.
So what is COO? So are you, you got an executive role now, don't you?
Yeah, so that started, which Anna was a solo practice until 2019.
And then that's when you came in. Okay.
Yes. So it has been the two of us now up until January. And in January, we started to bring new people on since we were expanding offices so that we would have more therapists.
Awesome.
So
you kind of oversee?
I just kind of moved up into that.
Good for you.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And I would say I would not be expanding practices if it wasn't for Collin.
Yeah, it's
He's
a partnership in a way now,
A
right?
huge
Yeah.
partnership, and just the way we work together, I think, is something special and invaluable.
Yeah.
I certainly would not have taken it on my own. It's been a lot of work for both of us the last 6 months trying to launch in January.
You can't do it all by yourself.
Mhm.
You need someone you can trust
Very
Right.
much.
and enjoy working with.
Exactly.
So while you're up here primarily, now you know the Oxford location's being run accordingly, and you're expanding. And then now
Right.
you're taking in, how many new therapists have you taken in?
3.
3 currently.
3 currently. Yeah, we were supposed to have had a 4th that was going to be primarily up here. Unfortunately, her husband is ill right now, so she'll start with us at some point to be determined in the future.
Okay.
Yeah, but we are still expanding and still looking for therapists to work with us.
Okay, throw it out in the universe.
That's right.
That's right. Contact them at 662-533-0220.
Absolutely.
Employment
That's
is
right.
there for somebody. All right, well, let's dig into the nitty-gritties, if you will. So I have here, again, pulling from your website, acsheals.com. You provide counseling services to children aged 10 and up, adolescents, adults, couples, families. So give us a good, overview of the different types of, is it psychotherapy that you offer? So
Yes. So I primarily do trauma therapy.
okay.
At this point, I'm certified in EMDR, which is a type of therapy that is very beneficial and effective with people that have trauma.
Is that like PTSD?
It is, but it's more, the people I work with are more of a complex PTSD, which will be a new diagnosis going in the DSM at some point in the future. It was supposed to be last year. Now it might be this year. It'll be a diagnosis in there soon enough. But complex,
what is that? Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I explained. Complex PTSD is a little different than your traditional PTSD in that complex PTSD does not have necessarily all of those traditional symptoms of flashbacks, nightmares, kind of those panic attacks.
High
anxiety, always on alert. We see that a lot with people coming back from combat and things like that. But complex PTSD is more of the childhood trauma and wounding that really settles into a person's identity and how they identify themselves and how they carry themselves in the world and in relationships, and just seeing the problems that can occur within that. Because if you're coming into adulthood from a place of trauma, then you're making decisions and being in relationships from that place of trauma and not necessarily very healthy or functional in that way. And so that's what complex PTSD is really working with, is I work with mostly adults that have childhood trauma.
And, I can relate to a degree, not so much hardcore child trauma, but over years, from being a child, and it wasn't until I was in my 30s, before I started seeking some help on certain things.
Yeah.
And you're right. Like I carried things, and it shapes you and makes you make poor decisions and get involved with the wrong kinds of people. And it took a long time to unwind all of that. So that's what makes it complex, right? It's something that's been embedded
pervasive
at a very young age. And it's not necessarily has to be like an explosive one-time thing.
Exactly.
I always looked at it as like mosquito bites for years.
Yeah.
Those add up.
Kind of like a death by 1,000 cuts.
Yeah. Exactly. Yep.
Exactly.
So what do you do, Collin? You mentioned earlier some titles you have, but what do you bring to the table as far as a therapist?
Yeah, so I also do EMDR, not certified, just trained. I do lens neurofeedback, which is a type of, it stands for low energy neurofeedback. I'm currently working on my certification for ADHD assessment and interventionist, and I also have a animal-assisted therapy interventionist certification.
Very cool. ADHD is a big topic, right?
Yes.
Do you feel like it's being overused and overdiagnosed by just people that say, yeah, I have ADHD? I know I've said it. Definitely the ADD part, because I have squirrels in my brain.
Sure.
Right. But let's really look at it for, what are real symptoms and you know, that kids have that some people might be overlooking, or things that are like, yeah, that's not really ADHD, you know, stuff like that.
I don't necessarily think that yes, it can be overutilized. Of course, anything can. I don't think that it is currently. A lot of the behaviors can be learned behaviors.
Yeah.
So kids at school watching each other fidget with their toys, whatever, they start to do that same thing. Well, now they have to have it in order to concentrate. That does not mean that there aren't kids that have chemical imbalances and that.
Yeah, and I didn't mean to diminish it in any way.
No, not at all.
It's a real thing. But people like myself, or just in general conversation, it's easy to say, yeah, I got ADD.
Sure.
But never been diagnosed or anything, you know, because you can lose concentration and not have it. You know?
Well, yeah, depression will make you lose concentration, not be able to focus in much the same way. So will anxiety, and actually so will trauma. And that's one of the things, you know, Collin coming in with the ADHD certification is that he's trauma-informed in that. Because what we do see in children, there's something called the ACE scale, Adverse Childhood Experience Scale. And the higher a child or adolescent scores on that ACE scale, the more trauma they've had in their life, and then that's going to lend to more behavior problems, more co-occurring diagnosis like ADHD with anxiety or ADHD with a mood disorder and things like that. So somebody can truly be ADHD and it still not be a chemical imbalance per se, but be a product of kind of their environment.
Byproduct of that trauma.
Of that trauma, yeah. And that's the thing, too. I mean, I'd like to just talk 1 second about the word trauma, because it gets used a lot now, and I just want to make sure that, you know, people understand how I'm using the word and we're using it, is that trauma is not an adjective to an event itself. It's actually about the individual's experience of an event. So, you know, the same event can happen to, you know, several people, and they don't all have the same response to it. But, you know, one or more of those people could have a traumatic experience from that event. And then, again, like you said, that's something that gets stored in you, that you carry as part of your identity and part of how you're making decisions and conducting yourself in the world. And so I just want to make sure that when we're talking about trauma, everybody's not just thinking kind of the big T trauma, but like you said, the lowercase t trauma, that's just that kind of low-grade pervasive trauma, chronic, that just, you know, really stays with you.
Yeah, people think, you know, obviously people, like you said, coming out of combat, huge trauma,
right,
massive PTSD, but it doesn't have to be what they used to call shell shock. It doesn't, there's other forms of trauma. Like, and I like how you said lowercase t. I like that, because it's true. And I'm glad you clarified that, you know, because people can, I think, and this is bridging into something that I'm passionate about a little bit, and that is the stigma. Right. So when someone says, I was traumatized as a young kid, well, you know, there's still people that have stigmas on that. No, you weren't. You're fine. And no, you're not depressed. You're just unhappy and all this stuff. Let's talk about the stigma. Because, you know, I'm a fan of therapy. I've battled depression all my life and anxiety, 10 years sober, thanks to
congratulations. That's fantastic.
Well, working on 11. But none of this is possible without therapy. I'm a big fan. I've been fortunate to have the same guy for over 13 years. You know, it's wonderful. So
that is amazing.
I'm not afraid to bring it out in the open like that, because you need to talk about it.
Absolutely.
But sometimes when you talk about it, you get stigma, and I'll never understand that. You know, so let's talk about that. Why first? Let's say, why do you think there's a stigma on mental health sometimes?
I mean, historically, when we've looked at mental health, there's just been so many, I think, mysteries around it, because it's nothing that you can quantify like you can with a hard science, or with, like, you know,
it's not visible.
Medical.
It's not visible and visual.
Exactly. It's a fuzzy science, and there's a lot of gray. And then also historically, people that had mental illness were looked at as maybe demon possessed, or, you know, maybe they had some other mental or physical handicaps, but it was looked at as just somebody who, you know, was, quote, crazy. And for a long time, there just wasn't much people thought they could do with crazy people. And we know now it's not, nobody's really crazy.
Yeah.
And that's not who it's for. It was really just for everybody who is struggling in some area of their life, whether it be, like you said, depression, anxiety, or maybe they're going through a major life change and transition, or just situational, from time to time. So I feel like these days, especially since COVID, we're hearing so much more about people in mental distress and the need for mental health services. So I feel like COVID really helped to highlight that and release some of the stigma, level the playing field a little bit. But even within certain demographics and populations of our society, there still carries a lot of stigma. Like in the African American culture, mental health and getting services for mental health is still more stigmatized than it is in other populations. Part of their culture, right?
Okay.
Right.
I never thought to break it down by race, how the specific races has their own level of stigma. That's interesting.
Yeah.
You want to speak on that, Collin?
Leave that right there. No,
that's awesome.
No. Also, generationally, older generations
1,000%
carry more stigma than the younger generation does.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, good point. It certainly is. Go back to, the PTSD before it was called that. It was shell shock, whatever. And our heroes from World War II didn't talk.
Right.
They didn't talk about anything, right? And they held it all in because they were afraid to, or it just felt like, no, that's not what you do. I don't want to burden other people with my problems, but that's why we have therapists. You are here for that burden. And it's important to talk about things. So with therapy, it's private, right? You can do what you need to do without having to blast it and be super vocal about it.
That's right. It's all confidential.
It's all confidential. But then you have people out there that aren't afraid to speak about it out loud. And those people are helpful, and because people that are not wanting to say out publicly can relate and feel good that someone's speaking for them, right? Like I said, long time in therapy. And what I love about it is for the first 5 years or so, it was past. Dealing with that childhood stuff, mom issues. Love you, Mom. No. Just you work it out. But man, it's also great when you kind of exercise through that, but then you have that person for present, because we all have major life decisions. There might be some tragedy in your life, whatever it may be. It's like, man, you have that person that already knows you and you have that relationship with, that knows your history and your past and your traits, that can help you through the current times too. So big fan. So that's why I really wanted to have you all in here, because I feel like, therapy as a whole is important.
Well, thank you. It's good to have advocates.
Consider me one for sure. All right. Well, let's go to the diversity part. You touched on it already, and I know it's a big part of your mission here. Let's talk a little more about that.
Yeah. So how that came about is, again, going back to COVID, back to 2020, I feel like it was just a very pivotal time in my life, as I know it was in so many people's lives. Because during 2020, it wasn't just about COVID. We had the George Floyd incident happen.
It was a lot.
We had the Black Lives Matter. I mean, what really started all of it, was Ferguson, Missouri. And so there was just so much just racial.
A lot of political stuff.
Going on. Absolutely. Wild. And, coming from a background of social work, especially since I was in school in the early and mid 90s, most of the people that I was in school with for social work were African American females. That who is predominantly made up the social work industry, really and truly, for years and years. And so one of my professors, Dr. Deborah Moore, still have a relationship with her to this day. She's working with us. I was talking to her a lot during COVID, and just about all the racial things that were going on. And if you remember, too, in 2020, but Senator Lewis died, who had been such, a huge influence in the civil rights movement with Dr. Martin Luther King, and had carried on his work after and done so much wonderful work in Washington for civil rights. And so he died. Obama gave his eulogy, which was beautiful. And Deborah and I were just talking a lot during that time. And we were talking a lot about African Americans needing mental health services. And again, that stigma that's there in their culture, kind of blocking them from seeking out those services. And also that there aren't a lot of African Americans that are in private practice providing just those kind of outpatient office type services that people can utilize just during their daily life. And so I had the idea then, really God-given conviction to start expanding the practice in a way that brought in more African American master level and clinical level social workers, because I had a great network of people that I had long-term friendships and relationships with that were, again, African American females that were master and clinical level social workers. So Deborah and I talked a lot about that in 2020. She was really, obviously, on board with that as well. But again, it was 2020. I had a lot of other life circumstances going on during that time in my family and my personal life. So other than talking about it in 2020, it just kind of, died there, so to speak. We didn't really pursue at that time doing anything.
It was difficult to do those things anyway.
Right,
Everything shut down, and it was just a weird time.
So fast forward 4 years later, I moved to Hernando in June of 24. And in July, I was walking around our neighborhood praying, as I often do when I walk in the mornings. And again, another thought from God popped in my head. I call them blinks.
Nice.
But I got another blink, and it really was God just saying, remember 2020? It's time now to do that, as all really was said. And I knew, Collin was about to finish up his supervision with me and become a clinical social worker, and I was already praying and thinking about how we could continue to work together beyond that. And so I took this to him and said, I really feel like it's a time that we expand the practice and that we bring in more African American clinicians so that, again, we can help break that stigma in their culture and have people be more comfortable to come to therapy, because they can come to therapy with somebody they know understands them, that they know
from their culture,
walked their walk, lived their life.
Yeah, a good role model to look at.
Right. Because as long as I've been friends, doesn't mean I've ever lived their life or been a part of any kind of discrimination or prejudice or the hard things that they have faced in their life.
Yeah, it's forms of trauma we could never imagine.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I just, I used to tell Deborah, I've always called it just, privileged ignorance is really what it boils down to, because you just can't know what you don't know, can't be what you can't be. Yeah. So this, again, talked to Collin in July, and we just started working on it then and been working on it ever since. And so all the clinicians we've currently brought in and the ones that we're still talking to that will come in hopefully in the near future, there's another 2 or 3 people there, are all African-American females that I've had a long-term relationship with. And then also, I don't know if Collin's, and I don't know if you want to talk about as much like LGBT, but we definitely, that's another aspect of it also, because, Collin's in the LGBTQ community. My son is as well. And again, he came out in 2020, my son did. And I was working with Collin, and I have a dear friend of mine who is my life group leader from church back in Oxford. She's in the LGBTQ community. And so that's another, again, just demographic that is underserved in private practice. And again, people that are in the LGBTQ community have their own set of traumas and their own set of just, life. I don't know what to say.
Worldviews, yeah.
Worldviews. I mean,
Yeah.
everything, obviously.
Certainly stigmas.
And
Yes,
stigmas.
very
Yeah,
much.
exactly. And they're, again, grossly underrepresented in private practice. And so, again, working with Collin, also bringing in more LGBTQ practitioners.
Mhm.
Hopefully my son one day will be one because he's in school now for social work and wants to do counseling like we do. And
Following in your footsteps.
following in mom's footsteps. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, Collin, what's your experience through this diversification has been like for you?
Yeah.
So tell us your role in it.
So, growing up, small town Mississippi, there's not a lot of therapists that even present themselves as being available for the LGBTQ population.
Mm-hmm.
I think that right now in Oxford, myself and maybe 2 or 3 other therapists out of 200 or more.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. So our goal is to expand acceptance to where we can, the motto that we came up with, help the most people for the most good. So do what we can for every demographic, every population of person in order for them to live a happy and productive life.
Yeah. And someone in that community
Sure.
Mhm.
that's doing the work. So people, they're going to be nervous coming in, and opening up about certain things. But like you said, with the African American culture, when African American child is going through some things, he or she would probably feel better
Mhm.
talking to someone from their community, and same with your
Absolutely.
community.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
But if there's such a limitation on, available therapists in those communities, it's tough, and a lot of people will go unseen and untreated.
Yes.
Exactly.
Well,
Exactly.
Congratulations. That's good stuff.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you.
So, the therapists you're adding, are they in both locations? Is it
Mhm.
kind of spreading around both locations as they're both scaling up
Mhm.
and growing up?
Yes.
Very cool.
Mhm.
Well, how's that working out? Is there any success stories you have, or
Well, yeah, I mean, we're getting there. It's a slow start, but something I heard in a sermon, I guess it was in January sometime, not long after we launched as a group practice. I heard in a sermon that when God calls you to something, it's always going to look different than you think, take longer and go slower than you think, but reach further than you ever could dream
you
it
gotta
could
have
reach.
patience.
So you got to have the patience.
Yes.
So we're in the patience right
are.
now. We are, like I said, we've added 3 other clinicians, and they're all part time. They all have, Deborah's retired, but the other 2 clinicians have other full time jobs, but would like to transition into private practice. So just
Mhm.
building kind of their client load so that they can make that transition in the next year or 2.
Yeah.
But that's where we are, is just, again, growing our business in a way that's going to bring in the clients that need to be served,
Mhm.
and having the clinicians to serve them.
Growing too fast can be detrimental.
Yeah, so we've been going slow and steady.
Yeah, that's the way
I'm
to do
definitely
it.
a tortoise. I understand that slow and steady wins the race. That's always been my motto.
I'm not, and
Yeah.
patience is an issue with me sometimes, But this isn't about my business. It's about your
That's
business.
right. That's right.
Let's talk couples and families and groups.
Mhm.
Now we've been touching on that one-on-one, which is my only experience.
Uh-huh.
I've never experienced going to therapy with someone else involved. So,
I can let Collin speak more on that.
Okay.
He does more families
all
and
right.
couples.
So, what are some of the family dynamic, therapy sessions like? What does that look like?
Honestly, it is for the therapist point of view, it's more being a mediator.
Yeah.
It's allowing the individual to express their needs. A lot of time it's reframing it. So you can let the other spouse know, like, this isn't exactly what they're saying. They're not really mad because you didn't take the
There's
garbage
emotion flying out.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So you're bringing in that rational overview of
Yes.
things.
Yeah, absolutely. And any couples session, generally, at the beginning that I start, I tell them, like, this is going to end one of 2 ways. You're either going to finish and be happy and healthier than you've ever been, or you're going to finish and you're going to realize that you weren't meant to be together.
Which could save them a lot of time and
Right.
money and stress.
Sure.
Yeah.
But we have to get there, and you both have to be willing to participate, put in the work and the effort
Yeah.
to make it happen.
Do you find, and I'm sure you've seen this, where one of the spouses or partners or whatever feels like you should be on their side?
Yes.
Right.
Quite often.
They go in thinking, yeah, the therapist is going to agree with me that my partner is the crazy one.
Yep.
And you have to knock that out of the...
Nope. I am an unbiased party. I don't agree with either.
Do you have people that are like, come on, man, like, don't understand why you're not on their side?
Yes.
What is that dynamic like?
Yes. So there can be people, pushiness. People will be pushy. They won't. Anyone who's coming there to see us, mostly any therapist, is coming because they want their opinion to be heard.
Right. Yeah.
So that's what it's about.
Which is the right one, right?
Most of the time.
Well, no, but they're
That's what
coming in with
they think.
they're coming in with agendas, each of them, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. The women typically more than men.
Okay.
It is a heterosexual couple. Just because generally men are less emotional.
And probably
Emotional in quotes.
and probably coming into this unwillingly. More
Correct.
often than not. So now they're timid and probably closed off.
Yes.
I'm just guessing here.
Nope. You're spot on.
Right. And then the woman is coming in guns blazing.
Usually.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Painting the picture here.
Yes.
Yeah.
No. So it's a dynamic that just has to be walked through,
Yeah.
but the end result can be amazing because you learn to communicate better with each other.
Yeah. Which is the key, right?
It is.
Yeah.
That's what a relationship is. It is knowing how to communicate with the person that you're with effectively.
And it's easy to fall into the uncommunicative, if I said that right, trap. Because you might open up and then, you get stung, or there might be some pushback, whatever, in that relationship. And then now you're both just kind of closed off a little bit. Well, that you can't grow with that, can you? You know? What is your experience in group? Do you do any group?
No.
Family?
No.
So that's where you got Collin, the specialist, in for that.
Yeah, no. I mean, another thing about being a therapist is you have to know your lanes and stay in your lanes.
sure,
You can't treat everybody for everything. And marriage and families, A&D work, kids, none of those were going to be my thing. I knew that.
So you're adult.
I am adolescent and adult individual. And now primarily, and I say now, it's been the last, since 2016, was it 9 years of trauma-based.
Gotcha.
But again, people are coming in with anxiety. They're coming in with marriage issues. They're coming in with, work problems, other relationship problems where they're having, a lack of boundaries or a lack of self-worth and things like that. And then we kind of have to dig what's under that. And I mean, we've all suffered trauma. I mean, we're broken humans raising more broken humans. Like to be human is to have trauma. It just is.
It molds you and grows you. It gives you life experience.
Right. And it's not all bad. I mean, you think about it's the hard things that we really grow from, where we build our character and our resilience and our perseverance. But again, some trauma is very detrimental to people as well. But, I've just always seen individuals. I have seen families on occasion, because being in Oxford, it is a college town. And so we do see a lot of college students. And so I have seen mom or dad with a college student before, where, again, there's a student that's in trouble and they've come into town, and I'll see them, or we'll have a family session where we kind of zoom them in. So I've done a little bit of family therapy in that way, but not true traditional family therapy like Collin does, where it really, the family is really the client, or the marriage is really the client. I haven't done that kind of thing.
I mean, it's good to get the perspective on the adolescence or the
absolutely.
the young person's life. What's the history here?
Oh, I'm always going to talk to the parent when I see adolescents. Well, and if they're minor, you have to. So for the first session,
I have experienced that. I've not pushed, but my daughter is absolutely in therapy as well. And because I know the benefit of it. Early on, there were some group sessions, but it wasn't about the daughter father working out issues. It was
Right.
just, here's what's going on to the therapist
Mm-hmm.
together. Okay, now you're on your own and do
Mm-hmm.
your thing. So I get it.
Yeah.
That's beneficial, right? You're just really
It
learning
is. Mhm.
what's the history here? Where are we coming from? Parents are
Mhm.
going to tell you more than
Exactly.
probably what that 20-year-old wants to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Opens it up. And then, all right, here we go.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't say enough about therapy, y'all, to the listeners. If anyone out there watching or listening is needing help, it's out there.
It is.
It's out there. It's available to you. There's safe spaces for you of any kind. And now that you're scaling up, it sounds like you're piecing the puzzle where you can offer the different. It's not so much about volume, it's just different people serving different needs.
Exactly.
So you can really expand that way. So someone can come to you and it might find someone that neither one of you are really experts in, but now you have someone that is,
Right.
or that you're building towards.
Mm-hmm.
That's acsheals.com. I'm going to say that again later. Let's end with how to support. So in the note you gave me, it says, please pass on our information. There you go. Share this post as you watch this on Facebook. Client referrals, that's always a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
But what I really like here is calling us to come speak at organization events and everything, so you can educate more on mental
Absolutely.
health topics. It's the talking, it's the pushing it out there. That's what I'm a fan of and
Mm-hmm.
want to support. So what does it look like for someone to want you to come speak? What does a speaking event look like for you? What do you bring? Have you done any? Let's talk about some experiences
Mm-hmm.
in the past. Let's talk about speaking publicly at events and people, I guess, hiring you or just inviting you into an event to speak on mental health. What does that
Mhm.
look like?
Well, for me, some of the places I've spoken in the past have been sororities and fraternities. They've had me come, and especially before exams, and talk about exam anxiety or performance anxiety and things like that. I've done a lot of work in the past with family crisis services in Oxford, going and teaching about suicide and suicide prevention to their volunteers, as well as I was also a rape volunteer for them for several years. And so being a part of those trainings they did for the community and then their workers and volunteers and all, because they reach a lot of counties they encompass. Family
Mhm.
Crisis Services does. They do wonderful work. And we went and spoke to the school district here
Okay, cool.
in January and again, let them know who we are and what we're doing here in the community. And again, just asking them to
Yeah.
utilize us in any way that they can. We're happy to go into the schools and do some psychoeducation on different topics that are needed. And I've also taught some classes for some community mental health agencies on trauma-based therapy, on the ACE scale, that adverse childhood experience scale, and things like that, so they could be more trauma-informed in the community mental health type work they were doing.
Yeah.
So that's been my background with public speaking.
How about you, Collin? Is this something that you're just jumping into? So he's like, yeah, it's
I'm
new to
not
me.
the best public speaker. So that is more Anna's department.
Yeah.
Again, we know our lanes. Mine is not standing up in front of a group of people talking.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
You have someone in that lane, but that's what makes a partnership, right?
Right.
You all
Right.
balance out the strengths and weaknesses. Well, that's cool.
And we do that very well.
But
We do.
is
We sure
Anna
do.
still going to push you out there a little bit? you think?
Yes.
Yes. Yes, I will.
Yes, I will.
Yes, I will. I used to not be as comfortable with it anymore either.
Yeah.
As I am now. It's just
Yeah.
anything you do, you normalize it. You get more comfortable with it.
Well, you all have done great in front of these cameras.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
As-
Well, you told us not to pay attention to them,
That's
so
right.
I haven't.
I shouldn't have mentioned them. Have you ever all done a podcast
No.
before?
I've done one other podcast, but it was years ago. I really think it was, like 2016 or 2017, with Amanda Reed and Allie Bell in Oxford. They had a podcast. I don't know if they still have it. But it was like a Christian women's
Okay.
podcast. Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
cool.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm sure. I hope this one's been more pleasurable. Or no, who knows? That one, I'm sure, awesome.
That one
I'm
was
sure it was
great.
awesome.
Today has been
No,
fantastic.
I get most people come in there very nervous, and I try to it's okay. Just conversation.
It's just talking.
It's just talking.
It's conversation. Exactly. It's communication. We're all humans. We're just trying to relate to each other.
So how can someone reach out to you to speak?
Again, through the website.
Just go to the website.
There's our contact information on the website. You can email me directly at anna@acshills.com. Again, our phone number, 662-533-0220. And then we're on social media, which again is Collin's lane. He's great.
Oh, there you go. Social
He's
media.
great with the social media. So we have a Facebook page and
Instagram.
I
and
know
all
that world.
good stuff.
Trust me.
Yes.
I know
Mhm.
that world. It's not fun sometimes. You got to get on TikTok.
I also have a TikTok.
He does.
I just don't post as often as I should at the moment.
Yeah. Well, whatever you post on Instagram, just throw it on TikTok.
Yeah.
That's what I do. TikTok's huge algorithm.
It is.
And it's powerful. And now that we have it back, it disappeared for like 15 hours.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It did. It did.
Cue the explosion sound. But well, look. Final words. I'll give you the floor here. What's one last thing you'd love to push out to the audience here? I see Collin looking right at you.
I know.
Put it
This is-
right on the spot. Where's the bus? I'll throw you right under it.
I mean, that's such a big question.
It is.
What do I want people to know
just
finally?
as far as your business, like, you know.
I just want people to know that I started acceptance counseling 15 years ago for the same reason I'm still doing it now, which is really just to help people in any way that I can. And I just want to help people correct and heal whatever wounding or whatever stressors they have in their life so that they can just live their best life, so they can make the healthiest decisions, so they can have great relationships. I mean, we only get one wild, precious life. I want to be able to make the most of it, and I want to help other people be able to make the most of it. It's too short before we're gone to live miserably, and to always struggle and suffer. So that's where I'm still working today from that perspective.
Amen to that. That's what I was looking for. Good job.
Okay. Yay, I
Great
did
way
it.
to end on a strong note. So again, Anna Windham and Collin Hill, thanks for doing this.
Wait, you're not going to make him answer that last question?
No, that was just yours.
Well, no. I think you're onto something, Anna.
Okay.
You got to get used to this public
I
speaking
do.
thing.
Yeah.
I do.
You're going to get thrown.
Colin can just say ditto.
Let's go. Bring it. Bring the fire. What do
You don't have to ask the question again. I don't remember it. Concentration span.
What's the first thing that comes to your mind as far as what you feel like people need to know about acceptance counseling?
That even though we all have struggles, coming in to see someone, to talk to somebody doesn't make you less of a person,
Love it.
less of a human. We're all
Yes.
human. We all have ailments,
Mhm.
whether they are physical or mental.
Does it make you weak?
It does not.
No.
Not at all. It makes you stronger.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That's the point.
And that's part of that stigma. You feel weak if you're going for
Right.
help. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So going in to see I've been in therapy since I was 12, 10, somewhere around there. I've had some wonderful therapists and I've had some not so great therapists. So I know both sides of it. But really, it's finding the person that works best for you. Call around. Like, if you don't connect with one of us, that's okay. Just seek out someone that you connect with
Mm-hmm.
that you feel as though could be beneficial to have in your corner.
That's a good point.
Mhm.
Yeah, I got very lucky. I knocked it out of the park with my therapist. But that's not often the case.
It's not.
Don't, if you feel like you're not vibing, that's
Mhm.
just something isn't right with your therapist, it's okay. Find another one.
That's right.
Because when you do find the one, then you're like, oh, I get it.
Mm-hmm.
So there is someone out there that fits everyone. And when you find that person that you can trust, that you vibe with and you feel like you can go there with, it will be life-changing.
Absolutely.
It really is.
Absolutely.
It really is.
It
I
is.
mean, I can't attest to it more. I could give a testimonial for hours on psychotherapy because of what it's done for my life.
Well, I'm so happy and glad for you. And your family benefits
Oh,
from
my
that.
daughter,
And your
100,000%.
friends and your colleagues. I mean,
100.
everybody benefits.
We would not be sitting in this room.
Mhm.
This podcast would not exist if not for therapy.
Exactly.
Because that's the foundation of my sobriety and everything that builds
Absolutely.
up in there. 100% truth. Hashtag truth. All right. Well, again, thanks for being here and doing this. And thank you. If you made it this far, pat yourself on the back. Give yourself some self-love because we are very much appreciate that you hung to the end because not everyone does.
No.
So thank you. You're a superstar. You're our best audience members. And also to our sponsors, especially Wesley Meadows, our title. They really give the fuel for this. But we have thousands. Let's exaggerate a little bit. Several other sponsors that we're very grateful for as well. Go to therealhernando.com. There we have our Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Collin.
Uh-huh.
We're on TikTok as well.
I'm going to do better. I'm going to do better.
And you all will be on TikTok. As we promote you all through promo clips and everything, you guys will have as much exposure as possible. And that's it, y'all. Again, thanks so much. This has been with Acceptance Counseling. Anna Windham, Collin Hill. Go check them out. It is, again, acsheals.com. Go patronize them. And if you or you know anyone that needs help and some therapy, contact them, please. All right, y'all. Have a great day. Thank you.